12 kilometers of ice and blood. That was what the trail camera showed when the security team reviewed the footage later. 12 kilometers of a single figure dragging itself through temperatures that would freeze most species solid in minutes. Dr. Rena Vosh had been a trauma surgeon for 200 years. She had seen patients arrive in every possible condition, but she had never seen anything crawl through a blizzard for 3 days straight, leaving a red trail behind it, only to collapse at her door and whisper, "Is this the hospital?" The creature was human. Rena had read about humans in medical databases. Deathworlders from a planet called Earth. A world of crushing gravity, extreme temperatures, and an atmosphere filled with a corrosive gas called oxygen. The files warned that humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and capable of violence that shocked even the most hardened species. The files did not mention that they could look so fragile. The human lay on her examination table now. Male, approximately 30 cycles old by galactic standard. His skin was damaged from cold exposure. His internal scans showed bleeding in 3 locations. His skeleton had multiple fractures, including 3 broken bones in his chest area that our species called the protective cage. His pain readings are extraordinary. Nurse Talik said, his 4 arms working quickly to attach monitoring devices. He should be unconscious or dead. Rena studied the human's face. His eyes were open, tired but aware. He watched her with an expression she could not read. "Can you understand me?" she asked. "Yes." His voice was rough, damaged from the cold. "Thank you for taking me in." Rena felt her scales ripple with surprise. Gratitude? The files said humans attacked when threatened. This one could barely breathe, yet his first words were thanks. "I need to examine your injuries," she said. "This may cause discomfort." The human almost smiled. "Doctor, I just walked 12 kilometers with broken ribs. I think I can handle an exam." Rena began her assessment. She pressed carefully along his torso, feeling for the fractures her scans had detected. When she reached his damaged ribs, she applied slightly too much pressure. The bone shifted under her touch. She felt it move against the broken edge. The pain reading on her monitor spiked to levels that would cause most species to enter shock. She pulled back immediately, expecting the human to scream, to thrash, to attack her as the files warned deathworlders did when hurt. Instead, the human took a slow, controlled breath. His jaw tightened. His hands gripped the edges of the table. And then he looked at her with those strange, soft eyes and said, "Thank you, doctor. I know you were trying to help." Rena froze. "What did you say?" "I said thank you." The human seemed confused by her reaction. "You're trying to find what is broken so you can fix it. Why would I be angry about that?" Rena looked at her monitor again. His pain levels had not decreased. He was still experiencing agony that would drive most beings to violence or unconsciousness. Yet he lay there, calm, thanking her. "I hurt you," she said. "Yes, and you thank me." The human was quiet for a moment. "Where I come from, doctors are helpers. Healers. Sometimes healing hurts. That does not make the doctor my enemy. That makes them someone doing a hard job." Rena did not know what to say. In 200 years of medicine, she had never encountered this response. Patients screamed. Patients fought. Patients begged. They did not thank the one who caused their pain. "What is your name?" she asked. "Daniel. Daniel Webb. Daniel." She tested the sound. "I am Dr. Rena Vosh. You are at the Valdris 7 Medical Center. You are safe here." Daniel closed his eyes. For a moment, she thought he had finally lost consciousness. Then he spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "Safe. That is a nice word. I have not felt safe in a long time." Rena assigned him to the critical care ward. She ordered fluids, cellular repair treatments, and bone stabilization. Standard protocols. Simple medicine. But nothing about this patient was simple. That night, after her shift ended, Rena returned to her office. She pulled up every file she could find on humans. She read about their planet, their history, their biology. She learned that humans evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey for days, never stopping, never resting, until their target collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies were designed to endure. She learned that human children fall down hundreds of times while learning to walk. And every time they stand back up, she found a human saying that made her scales ripple. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. Rena sat in her dark office for a long time after that. She thought about the trail of blood across 12 kilometers of ice. She thought about the human who thanked her for causing him pain. She realized she understood nothing about this species, and she was not sure if that terrified her or fascinated her. Perhaps both. The surgical theater had seen thousands of procedures. Its walls had absorbed screams in 40 different languages, curses from species across the galaxy, and the desperate thrashing of patients fighting against the pain of healing. Today, it was silent, doctor. Rena stood over Daniel Webb with her surgical tools ready. For nurses surrounded the table. Administrator Grell watched from the observation window above, his face tight with worry. You understand our protocol, Rena said to Daniel. Drethkai medicine does not use unconsciousness drugs during surgery. We believe that a patient who sleeps through healing does not truly wish to survive. Daniel nodded. You want me awake? Yes. The procedure will be unpleasant. That strange human expression crossed his face again. Almost a smile, but tired. Sad. Doctor, I spent 3 years as a combat medic. I have held soldiers together with my bare hands while waiting for rescue ships. I have felt unpleasant. Rena did not know what a combat medic was, but she understood the weight in his voice. This human had seen things, done things, survived things. Then let us begin, she said. The internal bleeding was the priority. A torn vessel near his kidney was leaking slowly into his body cavity. Rena made her incision and began working. Daniel did not scream. His vital signs showed extreme pain responses. His heart rate increased. Sweat appeared on his strange, scale-less skin. His muscles tightened until they trembled, but he did not scream. Tell me about your planet, Rena said as she worked. Talking was not standard protocol, but nothing about this case was standard. Daniel was quiet for a moment, focusing on his breathing. Then he spoke, his voice strained but steady. Earth is violent. It shakes. It floods. It burns. The air is full of a gas that helps fire spread. The water is full of creatures with sharp teeth. The land has animals that can kill you in 100 different ways. Rena's hands paused briefly. This sounds like a death world. It is. Daniel almost laughed, then stopped as pain rippled through him. But it is also beautiful. Green forests that stretch forever. Blue oceans you could sail for weeks without seeing land. Mountains so tall they touch the clouds. Why would anyone stay on such a world? Because it is home. Daniel's voice grew soft. Because we learned to love it. The danger made us strong. The beauty made the strength worth having. Rena sealed the torn vessel and moved to the next injury. Daniel continued talking, his words coming in waves between controlled breaths. He told her about human persistence, how their ancestors would chase animals for days across open plains, never stopping, until the prey simply gave up from exhaustion. He told her about their children, who fell constantly while learning to walk, but never stopped trying. We break, Daniel said, all the time. Bones, hearts, spirits. We break, but we heal. And then we get up and keep going. Above them, Administrator Grell turned to his assistant. This is wrong. This creature should not be able to function. Its pain readings are beyond anything in our medical records. The assistant shrugged. Perhaps their species does not feel pain as we do. Grell shook his head. No, look at the scans. He feels everything. He simply endures it. The surgery lasted 3 hours. When Rena finally closed the last wound, Daniel lay on the table covered in sweat, his hands still gripping the rails. His knuckles had gone white from the pressure. It is done, Rena said. Daniel released his grip slowly. His fingers were shaking. Thank you, doctor. Again with the thanks. Rena still did not understand it. I caused you great pain, she said. You saved my life. Daniel looked at her with those soft, tired eyes. Pain ends. Dead is forever. That night, Administrator Grell called Rena to his office. His face was grim. This creature must be transferred, he said. I have contacted a human medical facility. They can take him in 2 weeks. He is my patient. I will not abandon him. He is a deathworlder. Grell slammed his hand on his desk. Do you know what happens when deathworlders feel threatened? When they panic, they kill. Their strength, their endurance, their pain tolerance. These are weapons. What happens if he decides we are enemies? Rena thought about Daniel thanking her while she pressed on his broken ribs. She thought about him talking calmly while she cut into his body. Then I would be dead already, she said. Administrator, this human has had every reason to see us as threats. We are strange to him. Our medicine is painful. He is alone and vulnerable. And yet he has shown nothing but gratitude. Grell was silent. Give me 2 weeks, Rena said. Let me understand him. Let me learn what humans truly are. Grell looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. 2 weeks. But if he shows any sign of aggression, he will not. Rena left the office and returned to her research. She read until the station's lights dimmed for night cycle. She read about human wars and human kindness, human cruelty and human sacrifice, and she began to suspect that humans were not monsters at all. There was something far more complicated. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, the fever took hold. Rena was reviewing patient files in her office when the alert came through. Daniel Webb's temperature had spiked beyond safe parameters. His immune system, already weakened from the crash and exposure, was losing a battle against infection. She found him trembling in his bed, his skin slick with sweat. His eyes were open but unfocused, staring at something that was not there. Lily, he whispered. Lily, I am sorry. Daddy is sorry. Rena checked his vital signs. The infection had spread faster than their medications could contain it. Human biology was still a mystery to them. Their antibiotics were designed for species with different cellular structures. Daniel. She touched his arm. His skin was burning. Daniel, can you hear me? He did not respond. His lips kept moving, forming words that she could barely catch. I will come home. I promise. Just wait for me. Just a little longer. Nurse Talik arrived with emergency supplies. The human antibiotics we ordered will not arrive for 3 days. Our standard treatments are having minimal effect. Then we keep him stable until they arrive. Rena began adjusting his fluid levels. We do what we can. The night became a battle. Daniel's temperature rose and fell like waves against the shore. His body fought the infection with everything it had. And through it all, he kept talking. Rena learned about Lily during those fever dreams. His daughter, 7 years old, brown hair like her mother, a laugh that sounded like music. He had not seen her in 2 years. The debts, Daniel mumbled. Had to pay the debts. Had to keep her safe. Had to give her a future. Rena did not understand all of it, but she understood enough. This human had left his child behind. He had taken a dangerous job hauling cargo between distant stations. He had done it not for himself, but for a little girl waiting for him on a planet called Earth. He loves her, Talik said quietly. I can hear it in his voice. Rena nodded. The files called humans deathworlders. Monsters. Dangers. They did not mention that humans could love so deeply it drove them across the stars. In the pediatric ward, down the hall, a small figure watched through her doorway. Yaira was a Fenari child. Small body, large eyes, soft feathers instead of hair. She had been in the hospital for a month with a respiratory illness. The cold air of the mining colony was poison to her fragile lungs. She had heard the nurses talking about the human, the deathworlder, the monster who had dragged himself across the ice to reach the hospital. Yaira was terrified of monsters, but tonight she heard different sounds coming from the human's room. Not roars, not violence, just a soft voice calling for someone named Lily, apologizing, promising to come home. Yaira crept down the hall. Her small feet made no sound on the cold floor. She stopped at Daniel's doorway and looked inside. She saw a broken creature in a bed. Thin, weak, shaking with fever. His face was twisted not with anger, but with sadness. Tears leaked from his closed eyes and ran down his cheeks. This was the monster everyone feared? Yaira watched Dr. Rena sit beside him, wiping his forehead with a cool cloth. The doctor's movements were gentle, caring, not the way anyone would treat something dangerous. Near dawn, Daniel's fever finally broke. His temperature dropped. His breathing steadied. The infection had not won. He opened his eyes slowly. They were clear again, but exhausted. He saw Rena sitting beside him and managed a weak smile. "Still here? You were very sick," Rena said. "I could not leave." Daniel was quiet for a moment. His hand moved slowly to his face, touching the dried tears on his cheeks. "I was dreaming about my daughter." "I know. You spoke of her." Shame crossed his features. "I am sorry. I did not mean to burden you with my problems." Rena shook her head. "You are not a burden. You are a father who misses his child. There is no shame in that." Daniel stared at her for a long moment. Then something in his expression changed. The walls he kept around himself cracked, just a little. "I took this job to provide for her," he said. "After her mother left, it was just us. Just me and Lily. But I could not find enough work on Earth. The debts kept growing. So I came out here to the cargo routes, where the pay is good and the work is steady. And now you cannot return to her. My ship is destroyed. My credits are gone. Everything I worked for." His voice trailed off. Rena reached out and placed her hand over his. Her scales against his soft skin. "Two species who should have been enemies, according to the files. You'll find a way," she said. "I have read about humans. You do not give up. You fall 7 times and stand up 8. Daniel looked at her hand on his. Then he looked at her face. "You researched us." "Yes." "Why?" Rena thought about the question. The honest answer surprised even her. "Because I wanted to understand," she said. "And because I think you deserve to be understood." The drawing appeared on Daniel's blanket 3 days after his fever broke. He had been sleeping, his body still recovering from the infection. When he woke, he found a small piece of paper resting on his chest. Someone had drawn a picture with color markers. A ship crashing into ice. A tiny figure walking away from the wreckage. Stars in the sky above. Daniel picked up the drawing carefully. The lines were shaky. "A child's work. She left it for you." He looked up. Nurse Talik stood in the doorway. "Who?" "Yaira, a young Fenari patient. She has been watching you from the pediatric ward." Daniel studied the drawing again. In the corner, someone had written his name in large, unsteady letters. "Dia. She knows who I am. Everyone knows who you are." Talik's voice was neutral, but not unkind. The human who walked through the ice. The deathworlder who thanks doctors for hurting him. Daniel did not know what to say. He folded the drawing carefully and placed it on his bedside table. Yaira came to visit that afternoon. She stood in his doorway, her large owl-like eyes blinking rapidly, her small body ready to run at any moment. Daniel saw the fear in her. He recognized it. He had seen that look before, on soldiers facing their first battle, on children hiding from things they did not understand. That he made himself small. He spoke softly. He did not move suddenly. "Hello," he said. "You made this drawing?" Yaira nodded quickly. "It is beautiful. Thank you." Silence. Yaira shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Daniel waited. "You walked," she said finally. Her voice was tiny, fragile, through the ice. "Everyone says you should have died. I probably should have. Why did you not?" Daniel thought about the question. It deserved an honest answer. "Because my daughter is waiting for me," he said. "And I promised her I would come home." Yaira tilted her head. "You have a daughter?" "Yes. Her name is Lily. She is about your age." Something changed in Yaira's expression. The fear was still there, but now curiosity lived alongside it. She took a small step into the room. "Is she afraid of you?" Daniel almost laughed. "No, she is not afraid of me. She thinks I am silly because I cannot braid her hair properly." Yaira took another step, then another. Before Daniel realized it, she was standing beside his bed, looking at him with those enormous eyes. "The nurses say humans are dangerous," she whispered. "Some humans are," Daniel admitted. "But most of us are just people. We get scared. We miss our families. We want to be safe, just like everyone else." Yaira considered this. Then she pointed at his chest. "Does it hurt? Your broken bones?" "Yes, but it gets better every day." "I have broken lungs," Yaira said. "The cold air makes it hard to breathe. I've been here for a whole month." Daniel felt something shift in his chest. Not pain, something deeper. "That sounds very hard," he said. You must be very brave. Yaira blinked. I'm not brave. I cry sometimes, when the breathing treatments hurt. Brave does not mean you do not cry. Daniel spoke gently. Brave means you keep going even when things hurt. Even when you are scared. You are still here, fighting to get better. That is brave. The small Fenari girl stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she climbed onto the edge of his bed and sat down. Will you tell me about Earth? Daniel told her about forests so thick that sunlight could barely reach the ground. He told her about oceans that stretched beyond the horizon. He told her about animals called dogs that loved humans unconditionally and animals called cats that tolerated humans when it suited them. Yaira listened with wonder in her eyes. She asked questions about rain and snow and thunderstorms. She gasped when he described volcanoes. She laughed when he told her about the time Lily had convinced him that monsters lived under her bed. What did you do? Yaira asked. I checked under the bed every night for a month. And I told her that if any monsters came, I would fight them. Would you really fight a monster? Daniel looked at this small, fragile child who had been so afraid of him. He thought about Lily, waiting on a planet far away. He thought about all the times he had wished someone would protect her while he was gone. Yes, he said, I would fight anything to keep a child safe. Yaira fell asleep, listening to his stories. Daniel did not move, even though his ribs ached from sitting still for so long. He simply watched her breathe, her small chest rising and falling steadily. Doctor. Rena found them like that an hour later. She stood in the doorway, watching the deathworlder sit perfectly still so he would not wake a sleeping child. She should be in her own room, Rena said quietly. I know. Daniel did not look away from Yaira, but she felt safe here. I did not want to take that away. Rena moved closer. She looked at the human, then at the child curled up beside him. The files say your species is dangerous, she said. Daniel finally met her eyes. The files do not know everything. No, Rena thought. They certainly do not. The military transport touched down on Valderis, 7 at noon. It was a gray, ugly thing designed for war, not medicine. The patients in the recovery ward watched through their windows as armed soldiers marched toward the hospital entrance. Captain Soren was tall, even by Drethkai standards. His scales were darker than most, marked with the scars of battles fought across a dozen worlds. He walked into the medical center like he owned it, his soldiers fanning out behind him. I am here for the human, he announced to Doctor. Rena met him in the lobby. She did not back down, even when he towered over her. My patient is still recovering. He is not a threat. All deathworlders are threats. Soren's voice was cold. I have come to assess the danger and determine if containment is necessary. Containment? He is injured. He can barely walk. Today he can barely walk. Tomorrow he might tear through this facility like paper. Soren pushed past her. Show me to his room. Daniel was sitting up in bed when they arrived. Yaira had been visiting again, but she fled the moment she saw the soldiers. Daniel watched her go, then turned to face the captain. You must be here about me, he said. Soren studied him. The human looked weak, thin. His ribs were still wrapped in healing bands. His skin was pale from blood loss and illness. But Soren had read the files. He knew what humans could do. You walked 12 kilometers through lethal cold, Soren said. You remained conscious during major surgery. Your pain tolerance exceeds any species in our records. These are not the traits of a helpless creature. These are the traits of someone who wanted to survive. Daniel's voice was calm. Nothing more. I do not believe you. Daniel shrugged. The movement made him wince, but he did not look away. That is your choice. Before Soren could respond, an alarm shattered the silence. Red lights began flashing in the corridors. A voice crackled over the communication system. Emergency. Mining Section 7 has collapsed. Multiple workers trapped. Rescue teams report unstable conditions. Soren turned to his soldiers. Stay here. Watch the human. He left quickly, heading toward the source of the emergency. Rena followed. The collapse was worse than the initial report suggested. A massive section of the mining tunnels had caved in. Tons of ice and rock blocked the entrance. And somewhere beyond that barrier, a family was trapped. A Malith couple and their 2 children. Their communication signals were weak, but still active. We cannot reach them, the rescue team leader reported. The tunnel is too unstable. Our equipment triggers more collapses every time we try to clear a path. Then we find another way, Soren said. There is no other way. The ice is too thick. The air is toxic in sections. The temperature would kill any of us within minutes. Silence fell over the rescue site. Everyone knew what this meant. The trapped family would die slowly, waiting for help that could not reach them. That a voice came from behind them. I can do it. They turned. Daniel stood at the edge of the collapsed tunnel, still wearing his hospital clothes. His breathing was labored from the walk, but his eyes were steady. You should be in bed, Rennis said. There's a family in there. Daniel pointed at the blocked tunnel. You said the conditions would kill your species. But I am from Earth. My body was built for extreme environments. You are still injured, Soren said. Your ribs are not fully healed. I know. You could die. I know that too. Daniel met the captain's eyes. But there are children in there, and I can reach them. Soren wanted to refuse. Every instinct told him to restrain the deathworlder, to prevent any possibility of violence or escape. But he looked at the collapsed tunnel. He thought about the family waiting in the darkness. Let him try, he said. Daniel entered the tunnel without hesitation. The cold hit him immediately, sharper than anything he had felt since his crash. His barely healed ribs screamed with every breath. The toxic gases made his head spin, but he kept moving until he found the Molluth family huddled in a small air pocket. The parents were unconscious. The children were crying, too young to understand what was happening. Daniel gathered the smallest child first. He carried her back through the collapsing tunnel, his body shaking from cold and pain. He placed her in the arms of a waiting medic and turned back 3 more trips. 3 more journeys through ice and poison and darkness. Each one harder than the last. Each one costing him more than he had left to give. On the final trip, carrying the Molluth father, Daniel's legs gave out. He collapsed at the tunnel entrance. The rescued man still clutched in his arms. Rena rushed to his side. You foolish human. You could have died. Daniel looked up at her. His face was blue from cold. His hands were shaking. Blood seeped through his healing bands where old wounds had reopened, but he was smiling. They are safe, he whispered. The family is safe. Behind them, Captain Soren stood in silence. He had come to contain a monster. Instead, he had watched a broken man drag himself through death itself to save strangers. He did not know what to believe anymore. 1 week after the rescue, Daniel stood at the window of his hospital room and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond all that darkness, his daughter was waiting. A knock came at his door. Captain Soren entered slowly, without his soldiers, without his weapons. He looked different now. The hardness in his face had softened into something that might have been confusion. May I speak with you? He asked. Daniel nodded and gestured to a chair. Soren sat down heavily, as if carrying a weight he could not name. I have spent my career studying deathworlders, Soren said. I have learned their combat capabilities, their weaknesses, their threat levels. I was taught that your kind exists only to destroy. Daniel said nothing. He waited. Then I watched you, Soren continued. A broken man, barely able to stand, walking into death to save a family he had never met. A family from a species that feared him. They were in danger. I could help. But why? Soren leaned forward, his eyes searching Daniel's face. Why risk your life for strangers? What did you gain? Daniel was quiet for a moment. He thought about Lily, about the promises he had made, about all the times he had wished someone would protect her when he could not be there. On Earth, he said slowly, we have a saying, we are all we have. Humans learned long ago that we survive together or we die alone. When someone needs help, you help them. Not because you expect something in return, but because that is what makes us human. Soren sat back. He did not speak for a long time. I do not understand your species, he finally said. I came here to contain a threat. Instead, I found something I cannot explain. Maybe we are not meant to be explained. Daniel turned from the window. Maybe we are just meant to be met. Known. Understood through actions, not files. Soren nodded slowly. Then he stood and extended his hand. Daniel recognized the gesture. Someone had taught the captain how humans showed respect. He took Soren's hand and shook it. Two species, once enemies in theory, standing together in something that felt like peace. Safe travels, human, Soren said. I will not forget what I saw here. After the captain left, Dr. Renna came with discharge papers. She handed them to Daniel along with a small folder. Your medical records, she said, and something else. Daniel opened the folder. Inside was a letter written in Renna's careful script. A recommendation letter describing his character, his courage, his kindness. At the bottom, she had written, "The most remarkable patient I have ever treated." I do not know how to thank you, Daniel said. You already have. Many times. Renna almost smiled. That is what I have learned about you. Humans thank people, even when it seems strange, even when you have been hurt, especially when we have been hurt. Daniel met her eyes, because that is when we need kindness most. And when we receive it, we do not forget. The landing pad was busy when Daniel arrived. His transport ship waited, ready to take him to a station where he could find work, rebuild his savings, find his way back to Earth. Yaira was waiting for him. She stood beside Dr. Renna, clutching a piece of paper. Her owl-like eyes were wet with tears she was trying to hide. You are leaving, she said. Daniel knelt down to her level. His ribs protested, but he did not care. I have to, he said gently. My daughter needs me, just like you need your family. Yaira held out the paper. It was another drawing. This one showed Daniel surrounded by all the patients and staff of the medical center. In the picture, he was smiling. Stars filled the sky above. So you remember us, Yaira whispered. Daniel took the drawing carefully. His eyes burned with tears he did not try to hide. I will never forget you, he said, and I will send you stories. From everywhere I go. I promise. Yaira threw her small arms around his neck. Daniel hugged her back, gentle and careful, mindful of her fragile bones. Then he stood, nodded to Dr. Renna, and walked toward his ship to the ramp. He turned back one final time. Renna was still watching him. He raised his hand in farewell. Thank you, he called out. For everything. Renna understood now. She finally understood. Humans did not thank others despite their pain. They thanked others because they knew that healing sometimes hurts, that help is not always gentle, that the intention behind an action matters more than the sensation it causes. They thanked others because they had learned across millions of years on a world that constantly tried to kill them, that kindness was the only thing that made survival worthwhile. The transport lifted off. Daniel watched through the window as Voldris, 7, grew smaller below him. Somewhere down there, a Finari girl was clutching her drawing. A doctor was updating her files. A military captain was questioning everything he thought he knew. And somewhere across the stars, a little girl named Lily was waiting. Daniel touched the drawing in his pocket and smiled. He was going home. The galactic database on deathworlder species was updated that year. Next to the entry for humans, someone had added a note. Approach with caution. Not because they are dangerous, but because they may change everything you thought you knew about strength.